Welcome to this episode of the weekly News Roundup. We move first to Iran, where in latest news coming in, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, acknowledged that thousands of Iranians were killed during more than 2 weeks of unrest in the country. Deaths he blamed on US President Donald Trump, who he said openly encouraged the protesters by promising them US military support. In a speech to the nation that was described on his website, Khamenei called Trump a criminal responsible both for the casualties and the damage during the anti-government protests that broke out in late December. Initially sparked by public anger over dire economic conditions, 86-year-old Khamenei made no mention of the brutal tactics of Iran's security forces in quelling the protests. Witnesses and human rights groups have described government forces opening fire on protesters in the streets and from rooftops. More than 3,600 protesters have been killed in the unrest, according to the US-based human rights activist news agency RANA. We bring you this report.
One protester in Tehran said how waves of people from the capital had flooded the streets, unarmed in recent days as government forces fired down from rooftops and military drones flew overhead. The eyewitness said, speaking anonymously for security reasons, they were aiming with lasers and shooting people in the face. They massacred people. They killed our most beautiful, most gorgeous, and bravest, our kids. In his televised address Saturday, Khamenei said the rioters involved in the unrest fell under 2 categories: people supported, funded, and trained by the US and Israel, and young people influenced by them. The latter, he said, were naive individuals whom the ringleaders manipulated. He said those young people damaged power industry facilities, mosques, educational institutes, banks, medical facilities, and grocery stores. The Iranian government has often blamed foreign agents for the deadly protests in the country without providing evidence. By harming the people, they, the rioters, killed several thousand of them, Khamenei said. Protesters in Tehran said protesters lit fires to counter tear gas and blocked streets to prevent motorbike attacks by the Basij, Iran's large volunteer paramilitary group established by Khamenei and often used to suppress demonstrations. In his Saturday speech, Khamenei declared that the U.S. must be held accountable. During the unrest, Trump encouraged protesters to keep up the demonstrations and take over the country's institutions, assuring them that help is on its way.
We consider the U.S. president a criminal, both for the casualties and damage, and for the slander he leveled against the Iranian nation, Khamenei said, according to a translation of speech excerpts on his website. Trump responded swiftly, calling for new leadership in Iran and referring to Khamenei as a sick man who should run his country properly and stop killing people. In a Saturday morning interview with Politico, Trump said Khamenei is guilty, as the leader of a country, of the complete destruction of the country and the use of violence at levels never seen before. In order to keep the country functioning, even though that function is a very low level, the leadership should focus on running his country properly, like I do with the United States, and not killing people by the thousands in order to keep control, Trump said. In the Saturday address, Iran's supreme leader vowed consequences for those who took part in the riots, but did not elaborate on what their punishments would be. We will not lead the country into war, but we will not let go of the domestic criminals and, more importantly, the international criminals, he said. This matter must be pursued using our own methods and the correct approach. More than 24,000 protesters have been arrested, according to Harana. But fears mounted for the fate of some protesters after Tehran's prosecutor said last week that some of them could face the death penalty for their actions, according to semi-official Tasnim news agency. Earlier in the week, the State Department said Iranian authorities plan to execute one protester, Irfan Soltani, following nationwide anti-regime demonstrations. Soltani was arrested during protests in Karaj, and charges were imposed on him. He was reportedly denied access to a lawyer. Human rights groups are calling for international support to halt his execution, stating his only crime was
calling for freedom. According to reports, Soltani's family was informed on January 11th that he had been sentenced to death, with his execution reportedly scheduled to take place on January 14th. The family reportedly claimed that they were not told why he was arrested or which authority carried out the arrest. After the international uproar over his proposed execution, his family later said his execution was postponed, and Trump said he had received assurances that there was no plan for executions in Iran. Iran's judiciary, though, said Soltani had not been sentenced to death. It was unclear what the fallout of the protest movement will be, or if it will reignite in the coming days. Iran continues to be cut off from the rest of the world as authorities maintain the internet shutdown.
The Nicaraguan government recently stated that on the occasion of the commemoration of its 19th anniversary in power, dozens of people who had been under the protection of the authorities have returned to their homes and families. The Nicaraguan government released dozens of people after the US Embassy in Managua advocated for the release of political prisoners, according to an official statement. Washington's diplomatic mission in Managua stated in a message on the social network X that while Venezuela has released a large number of political prisoners, in Nicaragua more than 60 people remained unjustly detained. We bring you this report.
On the pro-government website 19 Digital, the Nicaraguan government announced that, on the commemoration of 19 years of Daniel Ortega in power, dozens of people who were in the national prison system returned to their homes and families. In photographs and videos released by state media, several detainees can be seen signing their release documents in front of police officers and hugging family members who were summoned to receive them after their release. This activity symbolizes our unwavering commitment to reconciliation, peace, and the right of all to respectful and peaceful coexistence within families and communities, the Nicaraguan government said in its statement. In its brief message, Nicaraguan authorities did not identify those released or the circumstances of their arrest. The local media outlet Divergentes confirmed the release of at least 30 political prisoners, while so far the Group for Reflection on Ex-Prisoners of Political Prisoners, GREX, has confirmed 19, and the Mechanism for the Recognition of Political Prisoners of Nicaragua has confirmed 20. Among them would be at least 7 opposition members: Jessica Palacios, Mauricio Alonso, Mario Rodriguez Serrano, Pedro Lopez, Maria Jose Rojas, and Oscar Velázquez. Also included is Nicaraguan evangelical pastor and cancer survivor Rudy Palacios, who has been in custody since July 17, 2025, and for whom the United States government had advocated for his release, while the Nicaraguan Attorney General's office had labeled him a criminal, coup plotter, and wrongdoer, accusing him of having attempted, along with other detainees, a nefarious coup of the state. Tensions have soared since the U.S. military attacked Venezuela on January 3rd and abducted the country's president, Nicolas Maduro, who is facing U.S. charges of narco-terrorism and drug trafficking, which he denies. The U.S. Embassy in Nicaragua praised the release of opposition figures in Venezuela following Maduro's removal from power, calling on Ortega's government to follow suit. In Nicaragua, more than 60 people remain unjustly detained or missing, including pastors, religious workers, the sick, and the elderly. Peace is only possible with freedom, the embassy posted on social media. Liberales Nicaragua, a coalition of opposition groups, praised the prisoners' release. They said in a statement that there was no doubt that it resulted from political pressure exerted by the U.S. government on the dictatorship, and political chess moves triggered by events in Venezuela.
We move now to Thailand, where at least 32 people have been killed and 66 others injured after a construction crane fell onto a moving train in northeast Thailand. The crane derailed the train and crushed some of its carriages, one of which caught fire. A 1-year-old and an 85-year-old are among those injured, with 7 people in critical condition, say authorities. Officials say some 171 passengers were on board the train when the accident occurred at around 9 a.m. local time. Photos and videos showed a broken crane on the tracks and damaged carriages flipped onto their sides as rescuers searched through tangled steel and debris. Thai State Railways says it is taking legal action against the construction company responsible for the crane. The Italian Thai Development Company expressed regret, saying it would compensate families of the dead and injured. Thailand's Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul offered his condolences to the victims' families. He said the cause of the incident was under investigation. We bring you this report.
At least 32 people are dead and dozens are injured after a construction crane fell on a moving train, causing it to derail in northeastern Thailand. The three-carriage train was carrying around 200 people and traveling at about 120 kilometers per hour when it was struck and derailed. The second and third carriages were the worst affected, and the crash sparked a fire in the second carriage. The train was about 3 hours into its journey from Bangkok to Thailand's Ubon Ratchathani province around 9:10 a.m., Wednesday local time, when it was hit by a large crane. The crane was being used as part of a high-speed rail project. The train had been traveling from Bangkok to northeastern Ubon Ratchathani province when the accident occurred. It was carrying mostly students and workers traveling for school and work in other districts. Local outlet The Nation reported that the incident occurred while the crane was lifting a large concrete section which dropped onto the train, causing several coaches to derail. One survivor, who is a train staff member, told local media outlets that he and the other passengers were thrown into the air after the crane fell on them. An eyewitness said that she witnessed the moment the crane collapsed. There were small pieces, like fragments of concrete, that started falling, she said. After those fell, the crane slowly slid down and hit. It struck hard, and then it came down and crushed the train. She added, saying, "The whole incident took less than 1 minute." One local resident, 52-year-old Sufan Imjantuek, told Reuters that he recalled seeing smoke before discovering the train's second carriage had split in half. He said he saw smoke rising, and when he came to look, he heard a loud noise. He added, saying, "When I arrived, I saw the damaged train. I ran to check and saw many people lying there. I went to the second carriage, which was split in half, and helped rescue people together with my younger brother, my brother-in-law, and volunteers, about 5 or 6 of us, helping inside the carriage." The crane was being used to build an overhead railway that is part of a $5.4 billion China-backed project to link Bangkok with neighboring Laos, where a Chinese-built high-speed line is already running to southwestern China. Known officially as the Bangkok-Nong Khai HSR Development for Regional Connectivity, the Italian Thai Development Company is listed as the firm in charge of the Lam Ta Khong Sikyo section, where the incident took place. The State Railway of Thailand has announced that it is suing the company. The initial cost of damages for the train carriages alone is reported to be more than 100 million baht, which translates to about $3.1 million. One of Thailand's biggest contractors, the company was responsible for the construction of a Bangkok skyscraper that collapsed last March during an earthquake. Last year, the company's president and several designers and engineers were charged with professional negligence over that incident. Many of them have denied wrongdoing. The Chinese embassy in Thailand said that no Chinese construction companies or workers were involved in the collapse. Chinese state media reported, "Thailand is no stranger to deadly construction accidents, due in part to weak enforcement of safety standards and regulations." Thai Prime Minister Anutin is pushing for stronger laws against contractors with poor safety records, stating that the current construction supervision law is clearly problematic. He also questioned why work on the high-speed railway was allowed to continue while trains were passing underneath, saying it was a breach of the construction contract, and pushed for the state-owned rail operator to properly compensate victims' families.
We move now to the Philippines, where hundreds of thousands of people gather around a historic statue of Jesus Christ. The statue is called the Black Nazarene, and it was paraded through the streets of the capital city Manila, and thousands of worshippers followed barefoot in a sign of their devotion. More than 96 lakh Catholics join the annual feast of the Black Nazarene, one of Asia's biggest religious events, seeking miracles and hope on January the 9th in the Philippines. Lakhs of devotees braved the overwhelming crowds along the 6-kilometer-long procession. Every year, millions of devotees gather in Manila for what is considered one of the world's largest displays of the Catholic faith. It's also the Philippines' largest religious celebration. Red Cross medics reported that they had to treat more than 700 people. This year's Translación, the procession of the glass-encased image of Jesus Nazareno, made history as it lasted for 30 hours and 50 minutes, the longest procession ever. Last year's procession lasted 20 hours and 45 minutes and drew about 81 lakh devotees. We bring you this report.
Millions of Catholic devotees flooded the streets of the Philippine capital Tuesday to honor the Black Nazarene, a centuries-old religious tradition that has returned after a 3-year hiatus due to the coronavirus pandemic. At least 60 lakh people jostled along the 6-kilometer route as the black wooden statue of Jesus Christ was carried from Quirino Grandstand to Quiapo Church in Manila, according to church officials. It is also called the Traslación, or transfer, referring to the relocation of the Black Nazarene to Quiapo Church. The procession started before dawn at around 4 a.m. and lasted 30 hours, church officials said. The procession pays homage to the statue, which many Filipinos believe has miraculous healing powers, and that touching it or the ropes attached to the main float can bring blessings to them or their loved ones. The annual religious procession marks the arrival in 1606 of a wooden statue from Mexico depicting a dark-skinned, suffering Christ. Augustinian Recollect missionaries landed ashore on May 31st, bringing religious images including the Nuestro Padre Jesus Nazareno, showing Christ carrying his cross en route to the crucifixion. The Black Nazarene is the life-size statue sculpted from mesquite wood, now enshrined in the Minor Basilica and National Shrine of Jesus Nazareno, popularly known as Quiapo Church. And when the procession passed the country's presidential palace, a number of worshippers raised slogans against corruption scandals involving the Filipino leaders. Chants of "Jail Now" rang out as the procession made its way. The Metro Manila Police deployed over 18,000 personnel to ensure public safety amid the massive crowds. Authorities said 4 deaths were recorded during the event, and hundreds were injured in the massive gathering of people. The statue dates back to at least the 17th century and has endured fires, earthquakes, and World War bombings. For the devotees, it has been a testament to the statue's miraculous powers. The public anger erupted in the Philippines last year when dozens of parliamentarians were accused of bribery, and there were also scandals involving money that was diverted to flood control programs, which turned out to be fake. Before January 9th, a 9-day novena of masses offered by various bishops from the region was prayed. Millions of Filipinos joined the procession from Quirino Grandstand along the streets of the Quiapo district during the 4-mile journey. Devotees walked barefoot, usually wearing maroon shirts, the color of the Nazarene image. The 9-day novena from December 31st until January 10th was attended by over 96,40,290 devotees, according to church officials. The image returned to its home on the morning of January 10th, concluding what is now officially the longest translation in the feast's history.
Thanks so much for watching. Until we meet next time, stay blessed.